In one corner of the internet, there are smart, systematic experts whom no one sees. In the other, flashy headlines, provocations, and TikTok dances. And you're sitting somewhere in the middle. You want to be noticed, but you don't want to lose your dignity, and you definitely don't want to descend into that crazy cringe. In this video, I want to explain what hype really is, how it's used by top experts, marketers, and entrepreneurs, and how you can stand out in the noise of the internet without damaging your reputation as an expert. My name is Maria Grineva, and I've been in marketing for 12 years. On my channel, I talk about American marketing, so make sure to subscribe, like, and join me on Telegram. All right, let's get started. Friends, I'm all for systematic strategic marketing, but I know that without attention, no system works at all. That's why today we'll talk about how to get that attention in the most respectable way possible. Hype isn't just about scandals and loud slogans like you see with show business celebrities. In marketing, hype is relevance plus resonance. In other words, it's about seizing the moment, tapping into pain points, saying what everyone is thinking but not saying out loud. For example, you might be a great expert, but you still don't get any inquiries. Why is that? That's hype. Because it's the truth, because it hits the mark. But it's not cringe, it's an intensified truth. Why are most experts afraid to stand out? Because there is a fear in my head. If I speak too harshly, they will think that I am selling out. If I stand out too much, they will think that I am not an expert, but just a TikTok blogger, and there is nothing serious about me. But the truth here, friends, is completely different. If you don't stand out, you won't be seen. And if you aren't seen, well, no one buys from you. It's like a closed loop. Even the most valuable system doesn't work without attention. And in 2025, you need to capture attention without losing yourself, but by changing your angle of presentation. Here are 3 ways to stand out without undermining your expertise. The first is provocation through truth, not deception. You need to say what you think, but not like everyone else. For example, my niche of American marketing gained traction online in a very interesting way. The second is the personal within the professional context. People care about the person, but you're not a blogger. Share stories if they lead to a conclusion that strengthens your position. Not how I survived a divorce, but here's what I learned about delegation when my marriage fell apart. Third, the form should be catchy, the content deep. For example, a striking headline plus a well-structured video. You're an expert, but you still only get 5 inquiries a month. Why is that? A headline that grabs attention, and then you actually deliver substance, insights, case studies. So you get a sharp hook to capture attention. This works especially well in Reels, and depth to build trust. And you know, as someone who publicly builds a personal brand and shares content every day, I constantly receive negative comments. And I'm not talking about those who argue from a place of experience, ask questions, or seek clarification. On the contrary, that's invaluable. I love all my followers. I'm talking about a different category. It's all a scam, just another guru. Sounds too good to be true. An infopreneur, another Blinovskaya, which, by the way, is also a compliment. But what's important to understand is that most of the time, it's not about me. It's about their past experiences. People often encounter deception, yes, through content, or they see something that triggers them. And when an expert sold them empty promises, promised millions in 3 days, or just shouted loudly, but in reality offered nothing, yes. And now they react to anyone who sounds confident, structured, and professional through the lens of their own defense mechanisms. It's not their malice, it's their pain, their way of protecting themselves from being disappointed again. I completely understand that. But here's where the strength lies, creating content not for those who aren't ready, but for those who are seeking clarity. And hype doesn't mean being loud just for the sake of noise. Hype is when you break through that deafness, but at the same time, you remain yourself without any pretense. So if you're building a personal brand, learn to withstand distrust, don't fall into making excuses, keep speaking to the point, and you'll be heard by those who truly care. Every week, I receive requests, messages, and words of gratitude. That's truly priceless. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and see you in the next video. Here, it's Marketing Without Cringe and Maria Grineva. See you soon.